Clinton era. I mean, how do you deal with this charge of class war coming from the Wall Street Journal and the Heritage Foundation and others?
Well, I think you deal with it by saying, yeah, we want class war too. And here's what class war means. That the only possibility of getting this country out of the crisis, the only possibility that really deep-set reforms can occur, including the protection and renewal of the productive base of the economy, is labor has to become more powerful. We need more protests. We need more noise in the street. At the end of the day, political parties and political leaderships tend to legislate what social movements and social forces have already achieved in the factories or the streets or, you know, in the civil rights demonstration. And the problem is that so many progressives, so many liberals now treat the new president as if he were El Comandante. And we line up, follow his leadership. But he's maneuvering in a relationship of forces where people on the left, progressives, even the Black Caucus doesn't count for that much. He's appeasing blue dogs. He's having to deal with Republicans. And to an absolutely unnecessary extent, I think he's following the template of the Clinton years. And of course, the Clinton years were years of the closest collaboration between financial industry and the White House, produced financial deregulation. I think the best thing the president has done is the stimulus. The worst thing has been to continue the bailout along the same lines that it was initiated by Treasury Secretary Paulson, a bailout that's clearly rejected by the majority of the American people and seen as a reward to the very people who ignited this crisis in the first place. But the deep questions about how do you rebuild a productive economy, the necessary role of the public sector in providing employment, whether fair trade is impossible, to what extent deglobalization, as some people call it.
Reversing history?
Well, history, we learned, is, can be reversed. I mean, the saddest thing, and remember with my own dad, who was a meat and potatoes 30s trade unionist, loved Roosevelt. And he's a guy who grew up in the early 20th century believing in American history. Every time the American people struggled and won a new right, that became then a foundation for the other struggle, and that was irreversible. And he saw in the Reagan years, history going in reverse. His union pension fund went bankrupt. The particular industry he worked in basically became defunct, and it was harrowing to me to see my father, who was the most patriotic guy I ever knew, as it struck him that we're always continually fighting for principles and rights, and they can be taken away. History, can go in reverse. But by the same token, where does it say in the Bible that we should live in a globalized economy where the world's run by Wall Street or the authoritarian leaders of China? I haven't seen that.
People with ideas like yours in the last 30 years have been marginalized. No coverage in the press, no participation in the public debates. Why did you become a radical? What made you so radical?
Well, in my case, there really was a burning a bush, and that was the civil rights movement in San Diego, where I grew up in the 50s and 60s. And when I was 16 years old, my father had a heart attack, and I had to leave school for a while to work. And I have a black side of my family by marriage. They got me to come to a demonstration, Congress of Racial Equality, in front of the Bank of America in downtown San Diego. And it literally transformed my life, just the sheer beauty of it and the sheer righteousness of it. And I won't claim that every decision or political stance or political group I joined as a result of the civil rights movement was the right one, but it permanently shaped my life. Then I think it was a friend of yours, this great Texas populist newspaper editor, Archer Fullingham. I was in Texas in '67, and most of my friends were becoming Marxists, and I didn't want to become a Marxist. And I heard him gave a great speech, so I made a pilgrimage. He's sitting on his porch carving a gourd out in Coons, Texas, Hardin County. And I said, Archer, can we revive the Populist Party? You know, can you be the leader of the Populist Party? And he looked at me and he said, son, he said, you're one of the dumbest pissants I've ever met. He says, the Populist Party is history. Corporations run this country, and they run the Democratic Party, and you better figure out this stuff for yourself. And it's what I've been trying to do since. I mean, to be a socialist in the United States is not to be an orphan. It's to stand in the shadow in a immense history of American radicalism and labor, but with the responsibility to ensure its regeneration. And I actually think the American left is about to receive a huge blood transfusion in the next year or two. It has to, because the existence of a left, the existence of radical social economic critiques, the existence of imagination that goes beyond selfishness and principles of competition is necessary to have any kind of serious debate in this country.
I pulled something off the web that you wrote recently. You said, I believe great opportunities lie ahead for the rebels of the world to swell our ranks and take the fight forward. A new generation of young people is discovering that their political engagement counts. Now, where are you seeing that?
Well, I have no difficulty finding hope. Hope kind of seeks me out. I've seen things in my life that I couldn't really believe happen. Black working people in the South, anti-war, GIs. And when you've seen that happen in your life, you can never be pessimistic. But there's an enormous legacy of the American left and of American radicalism in general that has to be nurtured and continued and passed down, and let new generations shape it in the ways it need to be shaped.
Mike Davis, thank you very much for being with me on The Journal.
Thank you.